What you're seeing is the inside of what many consider to be the most formidable and massive prison complexes in the entire world. It's El Salvador's new mega prison, built to house upwards of 40,000 prisoners at a single time. And many are saying that it's the model for what President Trump wants to do at Guantanamo Bay.
Today, I'm also signing an executive order to instruct the Departments of Defense and Homeland Security to begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay. Most people don't even know about it. We have 30,000 beds in Guantanamo to detain the worst criminal illegal aliens threatening the American people. Some of them are so bad we don't even trust the countries to hold them because we don't want them coming back, so we're going to send them out to Guantanamo.
Now, what's so interesting here is that our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he was actually stationed at Guantanamo Bay for a number of years, so he's very familiar with the site. That was one of his assignments, and he assured Jesse Waters of Fox that the Defense Department is already on it.
We actually can accommodate 30,000 criminal migrants at Gitmo.
Absolutely, we can, and we can plus that up very rapidly. As you mentioned, I served there. I know exactly the places where this would happen. Guantanamo has long been a place for migrants. In fact, in the 90s, tens of thousands of Haitian and Cuban migrants staged there as part of a crisis. We have an even bigger crisis on our hands right now. It was mentioned, 7,500 violent illegals have been captured by ICE in the last 9 days. God bless them. Where do you move them? I'll tell you what. No one's going to be waiting on the Defense Department. We're going to lean forward. We've made sure that we staging on the border to protect it, that we've got gray tails, which are known as military aircraft, to help mass deportations. And Guantanamo Bay, Jesse, is a perfect spot. We don't want illegal criminals in the United States, not a minute longer than they have to be. Move them off to Guantanamo Bay where they can be safely maintained until they are deported to their final location, their country of origin, where they are headed. So we feel great about this plan. We know we can execute it, and the Defense Department's prepared to do everything we can. We just laud DHS and ICE for what they've done, and we're coming alongside them to make sure we protect the American people.
Now, again, the closest model that we have for this is the super prison built by El Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele. A few years back, when Bukele ran for president for the first time, he ran as a populist outsider who campaigned on basically draining the swamp in Salvadoran politics and restoring law and order to what had become one of the single most violent nations in the world. At one point, El Salvador had the highest murder rate in the entire world, averaging 1 murder per hour. Drug cartels and gangs literally controlled everything. The government became little more than a passive spectator. But now with Bukele at the helm, all of that has come to a dramatic end. The homicide rate in El Salvador has plummeted. Get this, before Bukele came to power, El Salvador averaged 108 murders per 100,000 inhabitants, one of the highest in the world. The murder rate today, 8 murders per 100,000. Once again, 108 murders per 100,000 inhabitants. Today, 8. 8 murders per 100,000. The murder rate has dropped by more than 90%. El Salvador now has one of the lowest per capita crime rates of any nation on the planet. And the primary reason for that dramatic drop in murder rates is Bukele's creation of what's being called a super prison. It houses upwards of 40,000 prisoners, many of whom are in prison for the next 40 years for gang-related activity, so they're basically removed from the streets permanently. Bukele's massive crackdown on violent crime has resulted in the arrest of over 64,000 violent criminals, and it's changing El Salvador like never before. And Trump wants to bring just such a program and effect here in the United States as well. And the result of such an endeavor is beyond your wildest imagination. But first, we often talk about how we can maintain and build up the conservative way of life here on this channel. And one crucial aspect of that is your routine, staying strong physically, mentally. It's not just about living longer, it's about living better, which of course starts with a good night's sleep. Now, I've been using Beam Dream every single night for a while now. And I got to tell you, gang, it has completely changed the way I sleep. A lot of you know I talk about this. I'm a horrible sleeper. I have a very hard time turning my brain off. But gang, seriously, since taking Dream, I literally crash every night. I fall asleep so fast and I sleep so deeply and soundly all throughout the night. Beam Dream is made with the highest quality sleep-promoting ingredients to help you unwind and get that deep sleep we all need and deserve. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual of mine that I look forward to each and every day. If I may suggest, I love their brownie batter flavor. I mean, you got to try it with just a little cream in it. You'll love it. Plus, I never wake up feeling groggy the next morning. Instead, I wake up feeling rested and ready to give it my all, making a huge difference in how I show up every single day. Now, right now, you can save up to 35% off with my exclusive Beam discount. Just click that link below or scan the QR code on your screen and use code Turley at checkout. It's time to stop letting sleepless nights hold you back. Transform your sleep and your day with Dream because you deserve it. And I got to tell you, I love it. Click on that link below or scan the QR code right now.
The vicious criminal who murdered Precious Laken was an illegal alien member of the barbaric Venezuelan prison gang known as Tren de Aragua. He trespassed across our southern border in 2022 and was apprehended by Border Patrol, but under the cruel policies of the last administration, instead of being deported, as he should have been, he was released into the United States, as were millions of other people, many of them very dangerous people. And you see what we're doing? We're getting them the hell out of here. He was soon arrested again in New York City on charges of endangering a child, but because of New York City's deadly sanctuary policies, as we have in California and many other places, which we're going to end them, he was released again to reoffend. The Biden administration then provided this illegal alien criminal with a free, taxpayer-funded flight from New York to Georgia, where he was arrested yet again, constantly, this time for stealing from a Walmart along with his gang member brother, who was a bad one. Only after being released a third time by the U.S. law enforcement did this cold-blooded criminal go out in that fateful morning hunting for women on whom to prey. That's what he did. He hunted. It was like a hunter.
That's President Trump yesterday, absolutely ripping the vicious killer of nursing student Laken Riley, but even more so ripping the insane Biden administration that allowed that horror to happen. Yesterday, President Trump signed the Laken Riley Act into law, the first bill of his new administration. It's a law that requires federal officials to detain any migrant arrested or charged with crimes like shoplifting or assaulting a police officer or crimes that injure or even kill someone. They must be permanently detained until deported. Now, as you heard the litany recited by President Trump of the myriad of times this murderous scumbag was arrested but then purposely, deliberately let go, even though he was an illegal migrant. Again, note the inversion of justice that the Democrats portray here now. Just compare how upset every Democrat was that Trump would even have thought of releasing a J6 prisoner, whereas this murderous thug was expected by Democrats to be released. Keep in mind, many Democrats voted against this bill. How they sleep at night, I have no idea. But by the way, because I guess in the end, they're lunatics. I'm just going to say it. I think that's what liberalism's become today. Liberalism equals lunacy. But now, by law, by sanity enshrined in our law, that will never, ever, ever happen again. And what Trump is doing here, I think, is he's borrowing a page out of Nayib Bukele's playbook. On February 4th, 2024, the nation of El Salvador re-elected Bukele in a stunning landslide. Now, when all the votes were counted, Bukele won with 84% of the vote. 85. This is how much he was loved for his successful efforts at restoring law and order in a nation that had been ravaged by gangs, drugs, and murder. Just like our cities. Now, can you imagine the popularity of Trump and the MAGA movement if he were to do something comparable in our urban areas that Nayib Bukele accomplished for El Salvador as a whole? Remember, one of the key demographic shifts that we saw in November was the mass defection of urban, non-white working class voters over to Trump. We saw it in a record number of voters vote for Trump in the Bronx. We saw it in Queens. We saw it in Miami. We saw it in Vegas and Philly. Almost every urban region shifted right in November. And largely precisely because of the concern that urban populations have over these twin dynamics of illegal migration and crime. Now, of course, at least at this point, Trump can't run for re-election. Although he does love to troll the Democrats, does he not? By saying, maybe I'll run again. And I think there's already a bill. Didn't I come across? I read something briefly about a bill on the House floor that would enable Trump to do that. It would specify that you can't serve 3 terms in a row, but you could still serve 3 terms. You can't do 3 in a row, but you could do 2 and maybe another or something like that. We'll see. But the key here is that the kind of extraordinary political dominance that we're seeing in El Salvador with Nayib Bukele in terms of the restoration of law and order, if that translates here to the MAGA movement, that will guarantee that America first will be the law of the land for generations to come.